This movie is based on true story. Here, Jose Mujica fights to survive 12 years of solitary confinement and torture in a deadly prison guided by the strictest security in the movie, A 12-Year Night. In 1973, after a war between factions, three men, Jose Mujica, Eleuterio Fernandez Huidobro, and Mauricio Rosenkopf, find themselves taken as prisoners. Blindfolded, they are transported in a truck by soldiers to another prison facility. Upon arrival, they are stripped down to only their underwear and placed in individual cells, their hands cuffed behind their backs. Left alone for some time, the soldiers later return to initiate a brutal torture method, placing cloths soaked in gasoline over their faces to restrict their breathing. The torment continues overnight, and it's only in the morning that the soldiers return to remove their handcuffs. Sometime later, the prisoners are handed papers from the Ministry of Defense, instructing them not to communicate with each other. Additionally, they are warned that the soldiers are forbidden from engaging in conversation with them. As a precaution, the soldiers shut the small windows in the cells whenever they notice the prisoners looking outside. 12 months later, the men appear skeletal, their emaciated bodies a result of scant food and a harsh environment. During a visit by a soldier to the prison, they learn that they are no longer considered prisoners. Instead, they are now hostages. The soldier informs them of an opportunity to briefly reunite with their families. The trio is taken for a much-needed new haircut and subjected to a forceful water blast to cleanse their bodies. While bathing, they attempt to drink the water, having suffered from dehydration for an extended period. Subsequently, they are escorted to see a doctor and provided with fresh clothes. Mauricio, one of the captives, is granted a visit with his daughter and parents, separated by a gate with soldiers positioned throughout the room. Overjoyed at the sight of his family, Mauricio expresses happiness, particularly at the growth of his daughter. She proudly shows him her new glasses, mentioning that they make her cry. Amidst their conversation, Mauricio's father suddenly bursts into laughter, eventually standing and shouting about coming to see his son. However, he begins exhibiting signs of memory loss, ultimately collapsing to the ground. In a panic, Mauricio screams for his father, but he is forcibly dragged out of the room and returned to his cell. Fast forward to 1975. A staggering 803 days since their initial capture by the military. Two of the men are transported to a different location, where they find themselves in a new cell, isolated in the middle of nowhere. In this unfamiliar environment, they endure the same harsh treatment experienced in the previous two prisons, enduring meager food and minimal water intake. One night, while the soldiers revel in a party, the loud noises disturb them, unsettling their unaccustomed ears. Smiling at the sound of fireworks in the sky, the two men reminisce about life before their current dire situation. They begin using knocking sounds to communicate and exchange wishes for a Merry Christmas. Fast forward to 1976, 1,074 days since their capture. They persist in their communication through the knock technique, even engaging in a game of chess. As the days grow colder, they ponder their whereabouts, perplexed by the biting chill. Speculating about the last man, they express concern as no updates have reached them regarding his well-being. Meanwhile, the third man, Pepe, finds himself in a cell teetering on the edge of madness due to the deafening silence. In an attempt to quell the thoughts racing through his mind, Pepe begins to hallucinate, seeing and hearing his mother calling his name. Desperate for connection, his mother arrives at the place where he is held, requesting to see him. However, she is told to wait under the sun until they secure a permit for her to see Jose. As night falls and rain begins, she steadfastly remains in the same spot, enduring the elements for the permit. Despite her dedication, the security guard, citing the need to check her documentation, instructs her to leave and forces her out into the rain. Despite the security guard's offer, she adamantly refuses and remains in her place. In his prison cell, Jose continues to hallucinate about his mother, pleading for her to stop visiting him. The security guard informs the woman that her son is not in the facility and is currently unavailable. Confused, she questions where her son might be, and he responds that he lacks any information beyond what he already told her. That very night, Jose is transported to another facility. Simultaneously, the other two men also undergo relocation, arriving at a new facility where a line is drawn in their cell, accompanied by a warning not to cross it. Fast forward to 1977, 1,529 days since their initial capture. A soldier and his friend incessantly repeat a story about a girl. Irritated, one of the men requests the soldier to bring a pen and paper so he can assist in crafting a letter to woo the lady. Initially hesitant, the soldier eventually relents, going to the cell and requesting the man to dictate the words. Later, a sergeant takes the man to a room, dismissing the soldiers. Seizing the opportunity, the sergeant seeks help in writing a letter to a lady he recently met and admires. Providing a detailed description, the man composes the letter, advising the sergeant to sign his name at the end before delivering it to her. Expressing gratitude, the sergeant hands over the notebook and pencil when asked if he could keep it. Returned to his cell by the soldiers, the man sniffs the notepad, grateful to hold one after a long time. The sergeant pays him another visit, offering hot bread and tea. During their conversation, the sergeant shares that the lady went on a date with him, describing it as pleasant. However, she remains conflicted due to his past marriage and the changes he underwent after returning from the war, leading to the end of the marriage and estrangement from his daughter. Drawing inspiration from the man's earlier story, he crafts another letter to help the sergeant address the lady's doubts. As they listen to a football match on the radio, the sergeant raises the volume for the men to hear, sparking excitement. The trio cheers passionately when a goal is scored. The sergeant then shows the man the letter he received from the lady, prompting the man to compose a thoughtful reply. Transported once again, they find themselves in a new facility with cells so small that their heads touch the ceiling. Pepe begins to experience flashbacks from when they were initially taken. As he looks in the mirror, he notices his hair has turned white. Expressing his frustration to the guard on duty, Pepe remarks that he wasn't born when they were imprisoned, and now they have been abandoned. In 1979, 2,391 days since their initial capture, the three men are relocated to another prison. Unlike the previous cells, these rooms are equipped with beds and are noticeably cleaner. During this time, one of the men receives a visit and is overjoyed to see his daughter for the first time. Grateful for the reassurance provided by his friend in the cell, he shares a story with his daughter, capturing her attention. Their conversation is abruptly cut short when he is informed that he must return, promising to conclude the tale during their next meeting. On a different day, soldiers enter their cells, bringing in tables, books, and various amenities, including better mattresses and a radio. Subsequently, they are summoned to face a panel and answer questions about their treatment. Before facing the panel, a soldier issues a menacing threat, warning them not to say anything foolish or face dire consequences. Despite the temptation to share the truth, Fernandez decides against it out of fear. After the panel meeting, all the newly provided items in their rooms are swiftly taken away, leaving them once again with minimal comforts. During a visit, a soldier questions one of the men about the cryptic writings on his bar of soap. The man explains that it's a reference to the roulette game, detailing the concept to the soldier. In response, the man laughs and candidly suggests that the soldier should have eliminated them all when the opportunity presented itself. The prisoner somberly shares that none of them can erase the memories of the day it all transpired. On April 14, 1972, a woman takes her daughter to school. The daughter realizes she left her pencil case at home, prompting the woman to return and retrieve it. Little did she know, tragedy awaited her. Upon arriving home, she finds her husband and other men present. A request to turn off the radio heightens their suspicion. Taking refuge in a room within the ceiling, they witness soldiers emerging from vans, guns pointed at the house. Tragedy unfolds as the woman goes outside and is killed, her husband meeting the same fate. To further manipulate the situation, soldiers place guns in the hands of the deceased couple, attempting to portray them as the aggressors. Investigations commence as two men approach the house, and a senior soldier is alerted to the presence of men hiding in the ceiling. About to open fire, the soldier hesitates when the injured man shouts, revealing their surrender. In the present, he expresses to the soldier that he doesn't mind dying in prison. Another man receives a visit from his mother, and he begins to share that they are trying to manipulate his thoughts. Undeterred, his mother encourages him never to stop fighting and to remain undefeated, despite not being allowed to provide him with the items she brought. During an outside speech, he starts shouting for his belongings, escalating to disturbing screams. Responding to the disturbance, soldiers enter his room to quell the commotion. He singles out a soldier, accusing him of contracting syphilis from a lover. Shocked, the soldier questions his motives, to which he responds that he simply wants the things his mother brought. Perplexed by how he acquired this information, the soldiers decide to take him to meet with a doctor. During the examination, he claims to believe they implanted an antenna in his head to eavesdrop on his thoughts. When asked who he thinks is responsible, he suggests either the military or CSI. The doctor informs him that he has a disorder, suggesting that what he truly needs is rest and a good night's sleep. In response, he asserts that he doesn't require rest or sleep, stating that he needs to use his hands, reading and writing to occupy his mind. Undeterred, the doctor promises to provide him with a book to read and pen and paper to write, emphasizing the importance of holding on to something to prevent losing oneself. She shares a personal story of watching her mother succumb to cancer in her youth, which motivated her to become a doctor. However, she recounts a moment, 20 years into her career, when she woke up realizing that her efforts wouldn't bring her mother back. Despite this, she encourages him to find solace in writing. As a soldier escorts him back to his cell, she insists that he sign the diagnosis form, assuring him that she will ensure he receives the requested book and writing materials. In due course, he is given a book. Fast forward to 1981, 3,053 days since their capture. The three men are blindfolded and led outside with soldiers surrounding them. In 1982, 3,518 days since their capture. In 1983, 3,883 days since their capture, they are transported to a new location. Rosenkopf is taken to see a doctor again. The sergeant who assisted him in writing letters visits, revealing a wedding ring, indicating that he and the lady got married. Curious, the sergeant inquires about Rosenkopf's desires, and he expresses a longing to see his friends. The three men are taken to an outdoor location with distance between them, sharing laughter at the sight of each other after years apart. For the first time during transportation, their blindfolds are removed. In 1984, 3,989 days since their capture, in their new prison, they continue to live confined lives in their cells, reminiscent of their past. Nato, one of the men, gets a brief respite as he is taken outside, where fellow prisoners scream his name. Displaying his football skills, Nato elicits cheers from both inmates and his friends in nearby cells, fostering a moment of shared laughter. By 1985, 4,323 days since their capture, Jose experiences a different fate. He is taken to meet a soldier who requests his signature on a form asserting that he wasn't maltreated. The soldier, however, issues a warning, emphasizing that his release doesn't mark the end of scrutiny. As he leaves the prison, he carries a flower inside the potty his mother had brought for him years ago. Similarly, the other two men and some fellow prisoners are released, leading to joyous reunions with their families. The trio also reunites with their loved ones, marking the end of their 12 years in solitary confinement. Post-release, each of them achieves significant accomplishments. Eleuterio Fernandez Huidobro becomes a defense minister before his death in 2016. Mauricio Rosenkopf evolves into a poet, playwright, and novelist. And Jose Mujica rises to become the president of Uruguay in 2010. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe. I would also appreciate a comment because it helps like you can't even imagine. It's a new channel and every bit of support counts.